Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Nerd Sanctuary. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the safety of your nerddom. And remember, please hit that like button and subscribe. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to talk about the newest event on the Arena homepage, Festival of Mountains of Mana. Basically, the idea is at the beginning of your upkeep, you get a treasure token, and a treasure token reads sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color. So basically, you get a free mana every turn. You can see here that I've already gotten my 5 wins. I wanted to make sure that I gave you guys the best advice I could. I tried many decks, somewhere around 7 or 8. I did come up with what I think is the best, but it is very hit or miss when it comes to this event, which is a good thing, to a point. It basically comes down to the matchup, whose deck is best against that matchup, because for the most part, everybody came into this event playing the deck that they thought would be able to use the mana the best. Okay. Also, to be noted, there are a bunch of bans in this format, all of which make sense. Karn the Great Creator. Can I not look at these? Okay. Well, Karn the Great Creator shuts off the activated ability of the treasures. Korvald draws a card every time you crack one. Mayhem Devil deals a damage every time you crack one. Lavinia means you can't use them because it stops your opponent from casting spells that have greater converted mana cost than the amount of lands you have. They have. So they wouldn't be able to crack them. Or they wouldn't be able to use the mana spent. Woodland Champion is just a 2/2 for 2 that gets bigger every time you sacrifice something. Anytime a token enters the battlefield. That's what it is. So this would get +1/+1 every turn for free. Blood Aspirant gets bigger every time you sack a token. So obviously, or anytime you sack something. And then Agent of Treachery, 7 mana, steal a thing in this format is, turn 3. So they didn't want those running around either, which all makes sense. So I'm glad all those cards were banned. They all make sense. Makes the format a lot more fun. So the deck I chose to start out with was this Jeskai Cycle deck. This is my normal Jeskai Cycle list. I didn't change anything. To note that these are best of 1 deck games, so the sideboard doesn't matter. But yeah, this is just my normal list. Nothing special here. So we have the payoffs, the cyclers, something like that, and then Luris to get it all back, right? Or not all of it, but to get like your Fox back and your Valiant Rescuer. But this deck did very well. It's fast enough. It gets out there very quick. There were many games where I got 2 Foxes out on turn 1 or a Valiant Rescuer on turn 1 and just started going nuts, right? Unfortunately, most of the games came down to if I drew a Zenith Flare or not. So that felt a little iffy, but it was still fine. There's not a whole lot of like counterspells and stuff going around from what I can tell. I did play against a blue-black control deck, but it mostly just killed creatures, and this deck just didn't care. Because, like I said, if you drew the flare, you were fine. The next deck I tried to take advantage of was the green-blue ramp deck. So we're ramping every turn, right? So if we're ramping every turn, this deck gets to go off 2 turns faster with a good hand. And you should pretty much just always mulligan with this deck if it's not a good hand. And I know that's like, no duh, but basically you need to have this guy on turn 4 with a regular hand. That's just how this deck works. You mulligan unless you can have this guy on turn 4. It's basically how it works. Here's all of our ramp, right? So we're running 15 main ramp. 15 main ramp strategies plus 4 draw effects, right? That's without the treasures. With the treasures, you can get it down to turn 3. And I did do this multiple times, turn 3. Then you're just trying to either mill out your opponent by continuously getting more and more Garudas out, using Spark Double to copy it, Thassa to flicker it, or just another Garuda. That is a secondary strategy. The first strategy is obviously just to attack with your big dudes, right? So, and then you have 1 end raise, 4 runners to finish off the game. Bouncing things out of the way, surveilling, such like that. But a lot of the games in this format came down to not me getting out a lot of creatures, but me actually milling out the opponent. So basically, you mill out both players, because this trigger, when it enters the battlefield, each player puts the top 4 cards into their library, or of their library into their graveyard, put a creature card with even converted mana cost from among those cards onto the battlefield under your control. So basically, you're hitting 4 cards every time you play one of these, and you play, you know, a bad turn, you get 2 of these out. A good turn, you get all of them, right? And you basically you mill both players down to 0 past the turn. They get the first draw step, they lose the game. So this deck did work out pretty well. There's very little Teferis going on, which does interact with your Willow Havens and bouncing your big dudes, which is quite annoying. So I didn't have a problem with Teferis very often. The black deck that was using all the removal just lost to this deck. It gets too many threats out for it to deal with. There's no good Wraths. There is, but not good enough to deal with this. Now, if someone had an Extinction event, that would blow this deck's, you know, it would just be over pretty much if they had one of those. But I didn't see one. I don't know. No, I don't. Okay. Let's see. I also tried... What was it? Oh, Mono Red. I also tried Mono Red. This list, typically with these lists, I just try and go as fast as I can, and the red decks can use that extra mana. Great. It's great. If you are looking to build a list for this event, this is the most useful one, and this is the one I would choose, because this deck is very good in a lot of other events, and it's also very good in this one. You can often get 2 creatures out on turn 1 or a Steamkin and just run away with it. Pun intended. Okay, so basically the red deck is a very good choice for this event. Not as good as I thought it was going to be. And yeah, that's kind of where I stand with this. If you're looking to build a deck for this event specifically, this is the one I would choose. Some version of Mono Red. This is a list that was ran in Worlds of 2019, so very good list. Definitely recommend this list for those of you who don't have it. Now, it is a little expensive with all the rares and mythics. Like, we're running 7 mythics, 12, 14 rares without the lands. Like, it's pretty expensive, but this deck will serve you very well going up the ladder, just the ranked ladder in Standard, going up, just playing to get your dailies. It's very good with, and so overall, it's a good list just in general to have access to. So yeah, I did try the mono white deck. Wasn't a good choice. You couldn't go wide enough, fast enough, and you could not get past their end game with this deck. There's not enough removal. There's not enough things to end the game. So basically, this deck doesn't have enough reach to finish it. I do think you could get a few wins out of this deck, but personally, I would choose a different deck. And that's basically where I'm going to stand with this. My first choice for this would be run the Jeskai Cycling deck. It's very cheap to build, like very, very cheap to build, besides the lands, and you can futz with these. If you don't have all of the lands, then I suggest you run the red-white version with Lurrus in the sideboard. So the biggest difference with this version and the like the Artisan version is that you don't have access to the alliances. No, is this not legal for some reason? Just trying to find the list. Oh, come on now. Found it. Jeez. So this is the list I would suggest if you don't want to spend a whole lot in this deck, or in this event. So basically we cut a bunch of lands. We're down to just 2 non-basic lands. And we moved into a faster list, as it were. We got rid of the alliances. We got rid of almost all of the reason to be blue. Added 2 Thundermanes, cut some lands, and boom, we had a deck. And if you don't want to spend a bunch, this deck's the way to go. This is straight up commons and uncommons. It's an artisan list. Just throw a Lurrus in your sideboard. It is a rare, but the Lurrus will give you a little bit more reach. Not that you really need it, since this is probably the best reach card in the format. So, yeah. So if you can't build the one because of the rares, this is the deck I would go with. And I still like it better than most of the other decks I tried here. Even the blue-green ramp. The other thing we should talk about with this event is I saw a lot of Jeskai Fires. A lot of versions of Fires, whether it's this version or the red-green version. So this is basically you get a Fires of Invention out, you start playing these guys out, and you attack for big chunks of damage in one turn, right? Basically, on turn 5, they could be dead with this deck. Very good deck. Definitely highly recommend building that deck anyway, but not necessarily for this event. And this is the other list I ran into quite a bit. I don't think this is a good choice for this event. You would think it would be a lot of free mana, a lot of big dudes, right? So basically, you're just getting out dudes and dudes and dudes. You can pump them up with your companion. That's cute. And then you can end the game with Cavalier or Embercleave, which is a good idea, but I just found that I could beat it even with my 2/2s from the cycling deck. It's just too slow. It didn't do enough against the decks that I was playing, the decks I chose. Also, this deck is a little expensive, as you might put together just by looking at it. There's, the lands, which you kind of need. You kind of need all of these lands to make it work. The 2 mythic Embercleaves, the 4 Cavaliers, the 3 Questing Beasts, the 2 Vivians. There's 8, 9, 10, 11 mythics just right there. Then you have the rares in Quartzwood Crasher, Gemrazor, Ceratops, Fires of Invention, and that's it. But that's quite expensive. There's that's not including the lands. So I do really enjoy this deck. It got me pretty high in the standings of the ranked queues. So it's good. It's a good deck, but I just don't think that Fires of Invention is right for this format. You shouldn't have to limit yourself by putting in Fires of Invention into your deck when you're getting free mana every turn. That's basically what I came up with through playing it. Let's just play one game here and see how it goes. Also, it should be said that for 250 or 2,500 coins, this event is awesome. I would certainly play I would certainly play that amount of coins to buy those card arts, because they are awesome. They're great. We'll go over them after this game, but definitely worth it. Mulligan to 5, huh? We're playing against Lurrus. So we don't actually know which Lurrus version we're playing against, but we're going to go for the turn 1 Valiant Rescuer. as it's one of our best plays. Yep, okay, so he's doing the same thing we are. We do have a Zenith Flare, which might put us up ahead. Alright, before we play land, we're just going to attack, see if we can't get him to block. I doubt we would, but sometimes because they have Lurrus, they're willing to trade. It's absolutely wrong, but some people do it. We're going to play the land tapped or untapped here. We're going to play a second Rescuer, which is what I thought I had in my hand there. And pass. We already played our land drop, so there's no reason for us to push our luck and cycle here. This Fox really doesn't matter to us. We'll just jump block it all day long. We don't care. I do kind of want to play this game of cat and mouse with him when it comes to whether or not I block here. Basically, we want to get him to use resources. That was good for us. But we don't want to use too many of our resources. So we're just going to chump block here. He's not going to do anything. That's fine with us. If he only had 1 mana there, I would have double blocked, making him cycle. But it doesn't really do a whole lot since these plus every time he cycles, not just on weird times there. All right, let's do the same thing. We're going to try and get him to commit. Sure. If he goes for the block, that's just really good for us. We will startling development. I've gotten so many people with this card. They really should know about it by now, but I guess not. Okay. So he's basically tapped out. I mean, he's got 1 mana. 1 mana is not going to do it, so yeah, I'm going to eat his Fox here. Kind of forcing him to play a Lurrus game, which is real good for us since we have a Zenith Flare. Cool. So we got exactly what we wanted out of that. Cool, we got exactly what we wanted out of that, so we're just going to set up to cycle at the end of his turn. He is going to kill our token. Well, maybe not. Okay, never mind. So my guess is we're going to see a Lurrus here, and then we'll Zenith Flare it on our turn. Yep. Okay. Just going to jump block. You've got to be really careful with your life total against these decks. Whether you're playing it or playing against it, you really just have to be careful. These decks can kill you out of nowhere. Alright, so we're just protecting our life total here. Because of Zenith Flare and the double striking thing, we just don't ever want to take a hit from this. Which is why it's a good thing that we have the Valiant Rescuers going. Looks like he's going to kill it. Yep. There's no way for us to pump him or anything, so we're just going to let that resolve. It's a bummer, but it's okay. We'll get it back with our Lurrus at some point. He didn't play a Lurrus here, so that's pretty good for us. Alright, it looks like we're going to Lurrus this turn. Alright, got him before. Never mind, we're going to kill him. Alright, and that's kind of pretty much how these games end up playing out. This deck has a ton of reach. If you play smart, you use your spells not just as cyclers, but as spells. The deck just doesn't lose. I've been down to 2. I've been, you know, getting my butt beat the whole time, and just came back and won with it. Easy peasy. So the rewards here, totally worth it in my opinion. It's 250 coins to join the event. Totally worth it. I would definitely pay 250 coins for the, or 2,500 coins for these arts. They're just phenomenal. They're different. They're great. They make you special, or at least your card's special. So I think with this deck, you guys can have a really easy time with getting these before the event is over. Anyway, thanks for checking out the video. You guys have a good one, and I hope it really helps. Peace. Also, a big shout out to the Twitch user Backsquatch. He's followed me throughout this whole process and helped me out a lot with his opinions. So I wanted to make sure that I said thank you. Thank you, Backsquatch. And everyone, don't forget to like and subscribe this video so that I know I should do more. Thanks for watching, and remember to stay safe out there.